Good evening, folks. We thank you for tuning in to the Talking Gator. This is a live edition, Monday edition. Before we get started, hey, the best way to help us is to like and subscribe to the show, like our videos, comment, interact with us. Trust me, I will interact back up until we get till, like 100 million views or whatever. I'll answer back. Get involved. We have people getting involved. We're having them on the show. We've got one on today who this is going to be his second appearance. Mr. Terrell White. Terrell White is going to join us here very shortly. What he's going to help us with, we're going to talk college football selection. I know there is a lot of controversy out there. Everyone has something to say. It doesn't matter what colors you wear, folks. You've got an opinion. We're going to talk about ours, mostly Terrell's. He's really good at taking over a show. I'm convinced he deserves his own, but I've got him for now. So, without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Terrell. Terrell, how's it going this evening?
Good evening. How you doing today, Talking Gator?
I'm doing good. Hey, call me Jay.
Jay?
I thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me back.
First, let me ask you this. We're into the holiday season. I had me a little festive thing going here, and I don't know what happened to everything. Anyhow, caught myself wrapped up in Christmas movies the other day, in like succession, and I found out that these are habit. There's like 5 or 6 Christmas movies I end up watching in succession every Christmas. So, Terrell, I got to know, what's that holiday movie for you? What makes it feel like the holiday season?
I'm going to tell you. Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone.
My man, seriously. I was hoping you would say that.
I grew up, obviously, I'm a late 80s, 90s baby, so that's all I know. When I think of Christmas, all I think is Home Alone, right? You know what I'm saying? As far as movies.
We can be best friends now.
Obviously, some other Disney movies I've seen, but like real life movies that make me think of the Christmas time, and I know the season is upon us. When I start seeing Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone being advertised on television, or I see it on Netflix or wherever I catch it out on HBO or something like that. Those are my movies that I know the time is here.
Does it still not give you that inner nostalgia, that kid feeling of the the complication of his thinking, but yet it's still so simple and childish? Like, I really like the things I loved about certain movies, and especially that movie, was the simple complication that went into it, right? It was little simple things, but he made this elaborate plan, and it was almost like he was our superhero. He was our Christmas superhero that we wish we could be. Macaulay. We wished our parents would leave us at home.
And funny thing is, me and my brothers and sisters, we left at home. When me and my brothers and sisters left at home, maybe it's like when the holiday season, school is out. Sometimes your parents still working or that. We would play and I would have Macaulay Culkin Walkman. I had the Walkman. I think my brother, we would come up with these different interactive things to do, and then we would try to play out the movie at home. Like when we were home alone, somebody would be the intruder, the 2 bad guys. Somebody would be the police officer that would knock on the door and take a look. And since I was the youngest and the smallest, I would always be Macaulay Culkin, right? So I mean, it's fun times. Like we still reminisce about those times when we get together for the holidays and talking about all the things that we did, all the things my parents didn't know we did when we were home alone. So it definitely brings back memories.
And how about our hero finally getting his star?
Yep.
On the Walk of Fame.
And the mom from the movie came out. I saw the picture. She was there when he got the
I cried.
Got the Walk of Fame.
I cried, Terrell.
Oh, I didn't cry.
I ain't going. I did. It brought a tear to my eye. I'm sorry. I forcefully held back crying. Forcefully but successfully held back.
But it's
crying. It was a touching moment for sure.
When I saw this, I wonder what took so long. I feel like a lot of other celebrities who came after Macaulay Culkin got stars. I feel like he was a 90s darling, right? You could think Richie Rich, all the other movies that he said a starring role in. I wonder what took so long. I don't know how that process works exactly, but I would assume he'd had one in the early 2000s because he's that famous.
That's a good question, but I will say to some, especially when it comes to child actors, sometimes it takes time for you to become a legend. Sometimes you have to come through and succeed through turmoil, through obstacles in your life to where you Tiger Woods is a good example to me. Like I loved Tiger when he first came out. And then it got to me where he was just so hard and there was no personality, there was no color to his character. It was just a solid block of ice all the time.
He was cold.
He was cold. And then
But,
you see this almost crumbling of Tiger in his personal life, in his physical life. And then he comes back
with his son.
But just his physicality, his personal life, he gets his personal life together, he gets his body together, he's now got his son, he's got this legacy of golf. Now he has this whole entire story that makes him now my ideal golfer, my ideal athlete.
And what you can say to that is, obviously, I've never met Tiger Woods, don't know him. This is all from a vantage point of looking through a TV screen, right? So I'm assuming Tiger may have wanted to have that ideal image of perfection and to try to be perfect. Eventually, right, we build you up to tear you down, the American way. You see what I'm saying? We build you up to tear you down. It's always like when you get to that level, whether it's Phil Mickelson and his gambling addictions and whatnot, and Tiger, and he had his different personal scandals that he dealt with, right? But like, I mean, once you let that go of trying to be perfect and just live life and enjoy what life has to offer, you become much more personable to the American people and the man next door, right? So I think that's what it was. And obviously, you're talking, he's $1 billion corporation just walking around. So you have to live to a lot of different standards that me and you may not have to worry about. Just as a common man, we can walk, we can be ourselves, we can live in our truth, so to speak. He may have wanted to live that way, but not he knew the flack and the monetary side and the capitalistic side of it that it would have brung to him, and maybe he wasn't ready to give that up. Right now, I think he's a lot freer, as what you're describing. He's a free man to do what he wants, spend time with his family, his kids, and to embark on golf with his son. So I mean, that's a blessing. I hope he's at peace is the biggest thing. If he's at peace with the decision of where his life is now, that's all you can ask for from anybody.
I get the feeling he is. I get the feeling that he feels like there was a lot left on the table with his playing career and competition. Mm-hmm. But that's just Tiger. That's the nature of Tiger. It doesn't matter what he accomplishes. He could blow. He could blow the records that he's got by 100, and he'd still not be satisfied, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's the full context of the man is that we saw the various stages and stories, and I'm not just saying rise or fall and rise. We saw this man go through various emotions, various physical conditions, mental states, in an accident, arrested. We saw him and he was very private with his life, but yet we still knew what he was going through, and he still came out of this a champion. When he won the Masters a couple years ago, that to me was the greatest moment in sports history, and that will be hard to top for me. When he came back through all that injury, all that turmoil, everything, won the Masters.
What year was that?
I feel like it was 4 or 5. Less than five.
Like 2019? You think it was 2019?
I think it was about his last Masters victory.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because I'm thinking, I know one. I may be thinking the one prior.
I'm thinking you're right. We're thinking of the PGA Tour Championship.
Is that the one he had the busted knee when he had a torn ACL?
Yes.
He walked the course. That's the one I'm thinking about. That's what I'm thinking about right now.
So, to me, for him to come through all that and to still come back and show that he is still better, he can still compete at the top and win, and to go through all that, and then to smile in the camera now and to joke and to, give some attention to these, young up-and-comers who are so fed off of what he's done, right? Who wear what he wears. I know little kids. I know grown people to this day who wear red if they play golf on Sunday.
Yes.
Grown ass
Yes.
folk who will wear a red
Yes.
shirt and black pants on Sunday just because that's what you wear on Sunday. So
Yes. I see. I mean, I don't personally see it, but I hear stories of people who go to the course and they speak to it like he was for 2 decades. He was golf. He still is probably the biggest draw name wise. Now, obviously, he's not that type of player anymore. But he's been humanized, and people love the like the humanization of Tiger now. Relatable, like I said, having more in common showing more in common with the common man that he previously did when he was at his apex, when he was at his high, when he was at the highest in the sport. But I mean, like you don't want people to go through the trials and tribulations, but you want people to be relatable to you. And obviously he's grown. We've seen him from his father passing, all that type of stuff, married to going through his personal life and stuff, kids now. So it's a great thing to see on the other end how he balanced and went through all of that.
well, he competed this week and played actually the whole weekend, 4 days. And it was good to see him back on the course. I didn't watch the event, but he's back competing the first time, in quite a while. And that's just, coming from the golf business, Terrell, speaking from the golf business feeds my family and has ever since I was born. Tiger Woods has been, as a singularity, if we can break anything down singularly, he would hold the most weight in what's been good for golf. He is super good for golf. He has been good for golf. And
Yeah.
I would have to owe a portion. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't probably put a figure to that portion, but there's probably a good portion of my check that I owe to Mr. Tiger Woods.
I'm sure every golfer on the tour like owes a debt of gratitude to Tiger, right? I mean, he brought so many eyes, I mean, advertisement dollars. So many golf courses were probably open because of Tiger. You just think of all the things from my childhood, right? In the '90s, watching this phenomenon take place. And me not knowing any golfer, obviously me being a black man by my picture, right? Not knowing any golfers. I couldn't name a black golfer prior. I mean, obviously I know a couple now, but prior to Tiger, right? Tiger was my introduction for a lot of people of color into golf, right? He made it seem as if it was that you could go to your golf course next door and it was a welcoming place, right? And then that may not have been the thing at the time, but it has become that now. So I mean, like Tiger was that. Tiger was like he was America's darling. There's no other way to put it. He was America's darling.
Well, he was inspiring on multiple levels. He was inspiring to black men across the nation who didn't feel
Yep.
included, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was also an inspiration to young people, whether you're a golfer or not, but to hit through his. It would be hard. There are only a few people, and I could probably name them on one hand, who I would be stupid not to have my children follow as an example. Tim Tebow would definitely be one. Danny Werfel, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan. That's probably the end of my list, right? Of who I would really trust my kids and say, follow what this man did. I know that you're going to find a lot of things that they did wrong. You're going to find a lot of holes in their story and a lot of, probably dark places. But if you take this attitude, this work ethic, this drive, this passion, this love for what it is that you do, you will succeed. I don't care what it is that you're trying to do. If you put these fundamentals to that, and you'll achieve it. No doubt. No doubt. Anyhow, we have some big things to talk about. Terrell, I'm sure you have something to say about the college football playoff selections. Well, let's look at the rankings here. The final rankings, of course, our top four: Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. And then we got Florida State, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Missouri, Penn State, yada, yada. To me, Terrell, when I look at this, I see number 6, 7, and probably 8 are better than 3 and 5. What do you think?
Okay, my biggest takeaway from the rankings are that the Florida Gators are not on this list. But I digress on that. We know that they weren't going to be up here. But more importantly, in all seriousness, my biggest takeaway is like I don't like. I'm torn, right? Obviously, I'm a Florida Gator fan through and through, right? Orange and blue to the day I die, right? Like I feel for the kid, not for the program of Florida State, the university, but I feel for the kids, right? I feel for the players, like because in sports in my lifetime, it's always wins and losses. Nothing else matters, right? It's always did you win or did you lose, and when that is no longer the threshold, like, and you get into this place where how'd you win, how'd you lose, how pretty was it, how how digestible was the win and loss, right? Are the wins, right? Like that's my only issue with it. I understand why, man. You lose your starting quarterback, you put up two mediocre displays on the offensive end, but the defense shows up well. Like I mean, and obviously this is a business, so you gotta understand that too. It's just hard for me for the kids, not for the coaches, not for the administration, AD, just for the kids, because you go out there, you risking. I don't want to say death, but you're risking long lasting injuries or like things that can impact your way of life the rest of your life to play this game, and then you get to that point where you're undefeated and you have an opportunity to play for the national championship, and it's not gifted to you because of the committee and because you got a player got injured. So I understand they're great, but other than that, when it comes to this, like I look at like I'm not sold on Michigan. I feel like the Big Ten is the most overrated conference in America. Like if you take Ohio State and Michigan out the Big Ten, like what is really there? Like come on, look, they like nothing. Like the Big Ten and the
Well,
ACC are very
well,
comparable.
let's look at it. Let's take Michigan and um, Ohio State out of this picture. What's left?
Maybe an Iowa team, but Iowa, I mean, what is Iowa? Iowa can barely score. I think they fired their offensive coordinator mid-season, and that's Kurt Ferentz' son. So, like, what I don't see, you got Iowa at 17 and Penn State. Well, Penn State, I mean, yes, you have Penn State. I guess maybe those three, but Penn State is never, ever. Penn State, I mean, they're a good program. Obviously, Penn State is Penn State, right? They got the historical precedence to go with their namesake. But I mean, what is Penn State? No one fears Penn State. No one ever said, "Oh man, Penn State has a chance to make the playoff this year." It's a top heavy conference, and it's those two teams they carry the throne for the Big Ten. Now, moving into next year, there'll be a difference. But right now, like I don't see a difference. I really don't see a drastic difference between the Big Ten and the ACC. Like I just think the Big Ten has more national promise, middle of America. They get have a bigger TV deal, more fans, the game, Ohio State, Michigan, and that's what the season sums up to. Whoever wins the Ohio State Michigan game goes to the playoffs, right? And the ACC got the short end of the stick this year. Like I said, I feel for the kids, but I'm um I'm hopeful that these games live up to the billing, right? I'm hopeful that the Michigan Alabama game is a good one. I feel like the Washington Texas game is going to be a high scoring game. I think that'll be the best game of the playoffs in totality, right? The winner of that, if Alabama wins, I don't really see. I think Texas maybe could get Alabama. I don't see Washington getting Alabama. I don't see Michigan getting Alabama unless Jalen Milroe just has a bad, horrible day throwing the football. Because I think Michigan will probably stack the box, try to prevent them from running or whatnot, and make Milroe beat them. But I'm not really uber excited for this playoff, right?
No,
I don't know why. Like I
I'm
don't maybe
totally not either. But I will say, if we're first of all, if we're looking at these four teams, I will say these were seeded well.
yes, I would agree. I think Texas had to be in front of Alabama because they had to head. That's the
Right.
only thing I like that they got right. They had to put Texas in and they put Alabama in. Because then you're
Yes.
saying none of the head-to-head battles. I agree
But
with the
then
committee on that one.
when you say they had to do this because if they put Texas, they had to put Alabama, right?
No, no,
Then
no. I said they had to put Texas before Alabama. They couldn't put them underneath them. That's what I was saying.
okay,
Excuse
okay.
me.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you said if they put Alabama in, they had to put Texas in, or
Oh yeah,
vice
I agree.
versa.
They would have too. Yes, I agree with that too. Yeah, maybe you did hear me right. Yes, if I said that, that's what I meant as well. I was saying if Alabama got
But do
it,
you
Texas would.
think Texas is a better team than Georgia? Do you think Texas is a better? And I'll go ahead and admit what I thought the top four was going to be after seeing the scores from yesterday was going to be Michigan, Florida State, Washington, and either Ohio State. And
Oh wow.
I would have loved to have seen that jump back in because their only loss was to the number one team, the team that got the one seed. And again, I thought they were a better team than Florida State, and I thought they were a better team than Georgia or Alabama. Maybe not Georgia, but definitely Alabama. So I just, that was my thought. Not that I maybe would have even agreed with that, but that just kind of how it looked to me. You had three undefeated teams. I agree with you. To punch those kids in the gut, those, Florida State, those players, to go undefeated on a season, and then, for second string guys, and their whole team did it, right? Their whole team went undefeated. They went through almost their entire depth chart to do it. But they did it, and their whole team can say that they contributed to an undefeated season, and then get to, get kind of kicked in the gut.
And then my last point on this, like I was saying, I really don't find these games too. There's not a lot of storylines for this game. Obviously, you got the Michigan scandal with Jim Harbaugh coming back. You got Nick Saban for a coronation of another national championship, and then you got the new bloods. You got Steve Sarkisian bringing Texas back. And then you got Washington. You need that West Coast love. And you got a second-year coach, which Cal DeBoer, I think his name is. I don't want to butcher his name. But I think the bigger thing that needs to be the underlining issue that you're going to see, I don't think half the kids from Florida State play who got NFL aspirations. Same for Georgia. Like, if I'm 13-0 and I done put my blood, sweat, and tears in this, I play in that? Do I play in a Sugar Bowl or whatever bowl they're going to, knowing that it's meaningless when I could potentially get hurt? And knowing that getting hurt, it takes away professional aspirations. Do you play it? How do you feel about that? Like, what do you think is going to happen in that instance? I think these bowl games have been rendered useless at this point in time. I don't even think I'll watch a bowl game. Maybe I'm gonna try to catch a playoff game, but I wouldn't watch that game.
I can only speak for what I would do if ever in that situation. I don't know, Terrell. It's definitely a personal decision, not to put your body in jeopardy, especially if you have a professional career impending.
Yeah, I mean, like I was thinking to myself, I'm like,
at the same time, where I come from, my work ethic is the man who's possibly going to hire me. My work ethic in a championship is going to mean a lot to him. He's going to want to know if I can perform in that environment, in a championship environment. Right? So that's just the things I'm looking at personally. Like, yeah, I could be putting my body on the line, but I kind of want to show homeboy that I'm willing to put my body on the line for a championship, because I'm okay with going in if I've won the game, if my team's won the game and I've got a cast on my leg and I'm talking to an NFL guy, I slap that cast on the table and I say, this is what I'm willing to do in championship games for you, brother.
My question, do you do that for a bowl game? Meaningless in their eyes, not mine.
But it's not meaningless. And
if you're Florida State,
I'm
saying if you're Florida State, you're playing Georgia. You didn't get to the. I'm saying this is strictly for you didn't make it to the big dance, so to speak, right? The playoff. Like like if you win, you still can't. Do you claim 14?
Okay, I see your question. Have we already proven what we needed to prove? Do we go
because at that point
in time
we were 14. Like us beating a Georgia team who's not in the tournament. Like you know what I'm saying? I mean the playoff. Like what are we playing this game for if it has no significance? We become 14-0. Do we become the UFC champions of 2020 or whatever 2019, whatever year they claimed they was the national championship? Is that what we do? We put a banner in the ground and we put a plaque out in front of the stadium, Dope Campbell Stadium. Is that what we're doing? Like what are we like? This game is what is this game at this point in time? Like you know how dejected I would be, but. I mean, I think they got it right in essence. I don't think that Florida State was a team right without a quarterback. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like I just said, it's just deflating for the kids. Like you said, it's a gut punch. But I mean, I'm gonna try to catch a game or two. I'm gonna try to catch a game or two at least, and hopefully, it surprises and lives up to the billing as a great playoff. Because I can't wait for the 12-game playoff. That'll be much more exciting.
That's gonna help. That's gonna help settle a lot of this. And we know 10, 11, and 12 or 9, 10, 11, and 12 are going to be controversy come next year or whatever. But we'll face that when
it'll be a lot easier.
You know when it comes. We'll cross that bridge when it comes. At least the important ones, right? At least we can justify why 10, 11, and 12 probably is not going to have a chance anyway, right? But right now, we can justify we can argue where some of these maybe who ended up these Florida State, Georgia's, Oregon or whatever, Ohio State could actually be competing with these other 4 that are up there. Mm-hmm. So I can say that if we look at this top 12, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just look at this. Let's look at this top 12 and let's just say, what if I do want to hit Donnie B up, because I promised him that I would make sure, because he didn't make it being sick. I do want to kind of get to some of his comments that he's got on here. But let's look at this top 12 if this was a top 12 year and these happen to be the same year. Now we're looking at Florida State's included, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Missouri's even in there, Penn State, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma. Now, this to me is, well, it's an SEC dream, right? Because we're loaded in there 4 deep.
Yeah, you got 4 deep in there.
Yeah, we're 4 deep in the SEC, so I like our chances there.
3 Big Ten, 2 Pac-12, 1 ACC, and 2 Big 12.
Yep, 2 Big 12s in there, Texas and OU. So
2 Pac-10, yeah.
I like this. I think the 12 team. So what's going to be next year's argument is, does LSU or Oregon, or LSU? Well, it's going to be LSU and Ole Miss. That's going to be the argument next year, right? If this year's next year in a 12 team, your argument here is going to be LSU, Ole Miss being 2 Western SEC teams.
Oh yeah. So there's only 1 team. Well, it's 2 from the East in here, so it'll be 2 from the East, 2 from the West. I mean, this gives me hope as a Florida fan, right? That if you just can be second in the East, you make it to the playoff.
Right. There you go. And how far were we, Terrell, from second in the East? I mean, we were possible.
We were 12 points or something like that.
Going into the Missouri. Well, going into not the Missouri game. Yeah, the Missouri game.
Yeah.
Going into the Missouri.
Arkansas. Is it the
Arkansas game? Going into the Arkansas game, we had potential of clinching the second. It was LSU. I'm sorry. We needed to win LSU. We needed to win Missouri. Tennessee needed to lose, which I think they did, ended up doing, and we would clinch that East as long as we beat Missouri. And then we would have that second spot. So, there you go. But what ifs with the Gators? We can drive ourselves. Hey, let me get to Donnie B. He mentioned Tiger is the greatest of all time, just like MJ. FSU had the 55th strongest schedule in the FBS, and that was kind of my point to when I said 6, 7, or 8 were better than 3 and 5 in my opinion.
I always wonder what that meant. I understand what I mean. Obviously, I don't know how the data is put and analyzed to get to that point. But I wonder, what is Michigan's? Because other than Ohio State and Penn State, who did they play? Like, I wonder who is, because I feel like they put a whole bunch of cupcakes in their schedule. Obviously, we can't go. There's nothing you can do about it now. I just wonder what is Michigan's schedule? Are they just going off? They need a Big Ten team because the Big Ten is the Big Ten. You want Middle America to watch during the playoffs, and I mean, obviously, there's a money component to this as well that we need to highlight. But I just wonder what's Michigan's strength of schedule. I don't think they played an overly tough schedule. I mean, you think about the Big Ten.
The rivalry game was their biggest game, of course.
Yeah, I mean, them and that in Penn State. And Penn State was a no-show, basically, because Michigan ran the ball the whole second half, did not put the ball in the air one time in the second half. So, I mean.
Donnie says, who do you think FSU can beat in the top 10? I think they lose to everyone in the top 10.
Yes, right now. But I think the opportunity should be I don't like to use the word deserving, but their record that they put on the field should have been presented with the opportunity. That's my only piece.
So here's what I think is, I think Florida State has a defense that can hold the top 15 or better to less than 20 points.
I think I'm gonna be honest with you. Looking at the rankings,
their offense without Jordan Travis is not, I don't think, capable of competing with any of these defenses in the top 10.
No. I think they could have.
I think their defense I think Florida State's defense could compete with this top 10.
Yes.
Compete. I don't think Florida State's offense could.
No, not without Jordan Travis.
But then again, Jordan Travis is a big play guy, right? You've got 1 or 2 flashy, big, chunk plays that are winning games for them. And Michigan's going to stop that. Alabama's going to stop that, right? Georgia's going to stop that. Ohio State's going to stop that big play shit.
For the most part. You in football, you never know. You throw one up, you get a lucky catch. Not lucky catch, but you get a big play, right? But
I'm still giving catch of the year. I was giving it to Ricky Pearsall because that is the most impressive.
The one of us Charlotte.
Yes, the hand. That's the most impressive catch by the hand. But that winning catch, Alabama versus Auburn. As far as ball aware and type play, that's probably my catch of the year.
Yes, without a doubt. That's the reason they got into the playoff. Not that game. Not that catch. But without that catch, they don't even make it. They don't even have a chance as a 2-loss team if they beat Georgia to make it to the playoff. Florida State gets in at that point in time.
Yep, you're right. Florida State's definitely in at that time because Alabama's still probably sitting right between them.
Maybe they put Georgia back in. Maybe they move Georgia back in. But they had a greater argument had Florida State lost to Auburn.
Good point.
But
so let's just real briefly. I want your picks on. I want your pick on this game right now. We will follow up with you as things progress closer to January 1st. This is the Rose Bowl. This is the first game. 5 I think it's 5 p.m. Michigan, Alabama. Who you like in that game?
I'm going Alabama.
You think you like the upset?
I don't look at it as an upset.
I don't look at it as an upset either. But that's what the seeds are showing.
I just look at it on paper. Like Alabama, Michigan struggles for me to score. I think Michigan has a solid defense. I think it'll be a 35-14 type of game. That's my prediction, 35-14.
Okay. I like that. I do like that because I have Alabama as well. Donnie B, just kind of touching back on Donnie B, Texas does not belong in the playoff period. I agree.
Yeah. You agree with that?
I agree with that, yeah. Because I'm thinking Michigan, Florida State, Washington, definitely. And I don't think Texas is that fourth place. Again, I still think Ohio State's a better team than Texas.
I don't disagree with you in that logic, but my logic is if I come to your house and I beat you and every game matters, how could you? And I won my conference and you won your conference, but I beat you at your home on the second game of the season by double digits. How do you? Did that game that count from week 2 or 3, whatever week they played?
I don't. I don't because Florida State beats LSU the first game of the year, but I don't think Florida State beats LSU in game 10 or 11.
Okay, true.
It just in my opinion, things are weird. They're fluid and you start kind of settling into. Of course, your elite teams, they start out the gate hot and that. But these ones that we're talking about in question, we're talking about that those first games. We're talking about Texas and Alabama. We're talking about Florida State and LSU. That those are I think those are two different games from the beginning. And I would even go as far to say that if you take the SEC championship and you put that in week 3 or week 1 or week 2, Alabama and Georgia, I think Georgia rolls Alabama, no matter where that game's
early
played.
On.
Okay, so that's kind of my logic on that is that early in the season, even good or great teams are still trying to find reaction. If that makes sense, because action needs reaction. And sometimes you need something to learn from. Sometimes you have to fail to succeed. If you're not, Kirby Smart in a hot year, or Nick Saban in a hot year, or Nick Saban has a flush year. Which actually Shane mentioned this morning. This is one of Nick Saban's better teams, coaching team. I would agree.
I would agree as well. I didn't see this watching that Texas game. And watching them struggle with USF, I believe who it was.
That was when they played like 3 different different. So much different. Yeah.
When they played like 2 different quarterbacks. It like Nick Saban has definitely worked wonders. But you could see, he sprinkled whatever that Saban dust is. He sprinkled it on his team, and they definitely meshed together. and they're a cohesive machine at this point in time. So, like I said, I like them 35-14 over Michigan.
I would
So
say my only other because I'm not sold on Ohio State being my preferred, fourth seed into that what would have been to me Michigan, Washington, Florida State. Not totally sold on Ohio State. I just thought that their only loss was to the best team rank wise, just period number wise. But Alabama is definitely, I think, would probably have been more fitting as far as competition in the fourth seed. Definitely, I would agree there. So I guess my ideal, I should go Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Alabama would have been kind of my ideal playoff scenario. After what we saw. Again, if we could do it better, we'd be there, right? Or if we had the money to be sitting in that, be sitting in that room, we could be. Which interesting enough, one of the top people in that room is an ACC guy, at NC State.
Yeah, I think it's the commissioner, right?
Right, the commissioner.
I'm sure he was stomping the table, but when the numbers aren't in your favor, what can you do?
Right, it's a voting, and there's rules that we don't completely understand, that go into that, and maybe the 12-team playoff is just a solution to pushing the argument further down the ranking boards.
Yeah, I just think you'll get less argument if you can't make the top 12.
You wanted to be here, right? It's kind of that opportunity. If Florida State's saying they deserve to be there, Ohio State's saying they deserve to be there, right? Probably the next, number 4 through 8 is saying they probably deserve it just as much as anybody else, and that's the opportunity to say, okay, well, let's see.
Question for you before you move on. When you say that, this is my one question. If you're SEC, ACC, Big Ten, whatever the case may be, do you want to be a conference champion? Do you want to play in a conference championship? If you're like if say hypothetically Georgia and Florida both have one loss, would you rather be the one loss team who doesn't go and know you're going to make the playoff and you don't have to play an extra game and you get an extra week of rest, you get an extra week of game prep for for the next team, or would you rather go into the SEC championship and get an SEC title? Which one would you weigh in one way or the other? Think about it, because you get a week off in between to game prep because potentially you probably kind of know who you're going to play in the college football playoff going on next year, or would you want to play the SEC championship, risk injury? You never know what can happen, right?
But now look at that's great and all, but now you look at this, you're playing with fire, right? Because now if you're playing for second, just to avoid that, now you're looking on the verge of being number, 11 or 12, 13, right? So you take Georgia or Alabama out of one of those, or you take Alabama out of that place, and well, of course, you got Missouri and Ole Miss. Your West.
Yeah, Missouri's number 9. I mean, I'm assuming the SEC.
So I don't know. I think it all depends on how powerful your conference is. I think in the SEC you can get away with that, but if you look at this, the ACC's not getting away with that. The Big Ten's not getting away with that. No other conference is getting away with that.
You got to think the Big Ten will now, because you're adding Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA. Those are 4 prominent programs that you're adding. So that's going to make sure the bottom feeders of the Big Ten, just like
that puts your 2 extra there, right? Yep, you said Washington and Oregon, so that gives you your extra 2. That puts 4 Big Ten schools into this top 12 that we're looking at here. So so as we're looking at it right now, that applies to the SEC and the Big Ten, and I think that's a fair assessment. I'm
just saying, hypothetically, if you're a coach, because I'm assuming someone's going to do this. Like, I know how coaches think. Like, do we want to play an extra game? We rather get rest our players up. Does the SEC championship, Big Ten championship matter that much, or do we want to be as fully healthy as we can be going into the playoff, regardless? Because if you're not a 1 or a 2, you're not getting a bye. That was my question. Thinking about it in that regard. Because if you're not the 1 or 2 seed, you don't get a bye.
Correct.
Then you may not get a home playoff game. That would be the thing you have to consider too. You may have to go on the road, but I mean, is that week of rest?
Well, yeah. In this sense, we're looking at Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama don't even play in the first game, right?
Or the first semifinal. It's the first 4 to get a bye.
Well, you're going to have because you're going to have 12 teams, so eliminating 4 would give you 8.
You're right.
And then that eliminates to 4, then the other 4. So you're looking at even the first round here. Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama don't even play in the first round.
So you get it back. So you basically get that week back that you put into the championship game. Okay.
Well, let's play a little game because we don't have anything better else to do. Donnie B says no more TCUs.
I think that's gonna be hard to do now that you're going to 12 teams. Like Liberty this year was next year may make it or something like that. A school like that, I think it's gonna be hard to kind of to not have one of those teams in there who doesn't get blown out. I think that's gonna be hard to kind of stop from
before I break down the what if. Donnie B says bottom line, Saban versus Harbaugh is more sexy than FSU with a backup quarterback.
I agree, Donnie. We agree there.
No more East or West. Oh, he's very true about that. We don't have any more East or West next year. Remember our conference?
Oh yes, it's gonna be top 4. Oh,
right.
You just gotta make it a top. You just gotta be the number 3 team. Essentially, just become
I think the top 3, right, as it looks right now, your top 3 or 4 SEC teams are gonna jump in there, right? Okay, so if we look at the first, we eliminate the first, and we look at the first round of the playoffs, those not getting a bye, we're gonna have Florida State versus Oklahoma. Who do you like in that game? This right now?
I mean, obviously
if that was
Oklahoma because Florida State doesn't have a quarterback.
Okay, Georgia, Ole Miss.
Oh, that's already been a game we've already seen. That's the one. That's the one thing you're gonna have a hard time with when it comes to these SEC teams. Like, don't have rematches of games we saw early in the season.
So this probably doesn't become simpler by making 12 teams. This might become more complicated. Because if you do it this way, now you have Ohio State and Penn State. So you're right. You're going to have Georgia, Penn State, and you would probably have Ohio State, Ole Miss.
Yes, I think they'll probably change the rankings around, maybe 1 or 2, just so you can get some out of conference matchups.
Right. You're going to have to mix up Georgia, Ole Miss. You're going to have to mix up OSU and Penn State, and then you'd have Oregon, Missouri, which would be a very interesting. Let's find out who.
I would take.
Let's
Missouri.
find out who third place in either division is. Right. Who's the better third place?
I would probably take Missouri.
I think I would too. Depending on how they delegate bowl games amongst.
No. You know the first round is on home. It's on at the higher seeds home.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. You're right. So, Oregon would get that.
Yes.
Oregon would get that in December.
Yes, in Eugene. I mean, even though Missouri is not warm in December, so I don't think the elements will play too much into it.
You do have elevation. Missouri is probably a higher elevation than what Oregon would be, too, I would imagine.
True.
Maybe.
Possibly. I mean, my geography isn't that the best at this point in time, so you may know better than I do. So
you think I would know off of some of these plans I've seen. They do put elevations on them. The highest I was, Terrell, I worked in Utah, and my plan said 7,000. I had a 7,000 foot elevation contour on my.
Did you feel it?
Oh yeah, you couldn't walk. We stayed in a 2-story Airbnb while I was there, and just walking upstairs would take my breath away. And there were days where we would have to walk, the entire golf course in 3 foot of snow before there was a golf course even there. Just 3 foot of snow, treading through it, uphill, downhill. We're on a, kind of a steep mountainside that's probably a 20, 30 degree slope. And yeah, you would walk probably 20 feet and just have to stop a minute, take a breath. Oh, glad to be back down to 25, 25 feet. What's the next one we got? Let's see here. Nope, we looked at that one. We're looking at Washington, Texas. This is probably a very interesting game.
I think this is going to be I think this will probably, like I said, I think this will be the best game of the playoff in its entirety. Right? I think this will be. I like Washington, honestly. I like Washington. For some reason, I'm a big fan of Michael Penix Jr. Like, obviously, he started at Indiana and transferred out to Washington after a couple of injuries. But I just think they're going to be able to score. Well, I've seen, because this year Texas has given up a lot of points in the Big 12. I think Washington has been enough shootouts and enough like pressure-packed situations that they'll be able to pull this one out. I see this one as a a 42-45 type of game or 31-28. I see it as a 3-point game. So it's going to come down to a game winning field goal type of situation. Yep, close high scoring. I definitely see. I don't see either team getting. I don't see a dominant performance defensively from either team. Yes, yes, I I agree. I don't know if they're out. I'm not a big gambler, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. So I would assume Texas is favored just by and plus right. Are they playing this game? What are they playing this game at? I don't know what this game is being. So it's in New Orleans, right? So it's closer to Texas. So I would assume you get closer drive, more fans, closer proximity to your university. I assume there'd be maybe a 3-point favorite. I mean, which is basically what you give to the home team, 3 points. I assume Texas would be the favorite. Yeah. And make directly and see each other in the national championship game before I die. I definitely think you're going to see some rivalry games for the championship, right? You may get a Michigan Ohio State, like if they get down to the final two, a Georgia Alabama if they get down to the final two. You know, the Florida. Yeah, I think yeah, I think they rather it be the final four, be a rematch than the first round, which I completely understand, right? You don't want to see the first round games you just saw 3 weeks ago and they were lopsided, right? That's what they're trying to prevent. Yes, yes. Because of the draw, because of the fans, the TV ratings, all of that. Like you got to remember, I was watching TV today, and I mean, the little bit I could catch. This is a business at the end of the day, right? As much as you may think it's not, this is a business, and it does, and it you have, and there's a business aspect to this. Like I'll say it again, that you have to consider when you're matching these teams up, like fans, the TV ratings, all of the above. So it's entertainment.
Donnie, I think I fixed it. Thank you for letting me know. I was muted. I was muted there for a very short period of time. I think he got my pick for
Yes, you did say Washington.
yes, I said Washington. I was muted. You could hear me, but I'd muted the broadcast, my mic on the broadcast. So he had let me know. I should be good to go though now. Um,
So who do you
so
got? What like
what's that?
if we both have Washington, and Alabama taking the first 2 rounds, who do you have between them?
Washington and Alabama? Alabama.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Where's I don't know what this game is at, but you know what this reminds me of? Like I don't. I
Georgia
think
TCU?
Washington would have a chance, right? This remind Washington. Michael Penix is the type of quarterback that could beat Alabama. Not saying that this is like a. I don't know if they have the defense now. That's the one thing I don't know. But you knew how Clemson when they had Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, they were able to throw the ball. You're not beating Alabama being more physical. You have to finesse Alabama. Yes, you
Right.
have to sprinkle some runs in. I think he's that level of a passer that would have the ability to get Alabama some problems if they're able to pull it off, right? I think he would be able to cause enough problems throwing the ball. I don't know how good they have one good receiver. I know. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's supposed to be all world, going to be a future pro and all that type of stuff. I mean, they have one good enough to kind of sway coverage to one side of the field, and maybe they can do some things. I know they have a decent running back who ran for a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns this year, but that was in the Pac-12, obviously. So that game was going to be closer than the experts think. I think that it would be a 7-point game. Obviously, I would favor Alabama just because of the talent difference, but I wouldn't be surprised if Washington eked out a win.
All right, so we've got our pick there. Donnie says I disagree with you boys. He's got Alabama in this game.
And, yeah, we both got Alabama and Michigan. We got
However,
Alabama beating Michigan.
Donnie B's taking Texas here.
Oh wow!
So
Okay.
we've mixed it up. We do have a little mix in. We'll have to try to find a little tiebreaker between the three of us, or between at least you and I, on this. He's going to take Texas, so that'll be his tiebreaker from us. Washington is a finesse team. He says Texas will manhandle Washington. That's pretty
so,
bold.
but a finesse team is what the Big 12 is. So that's why I think Washington has a good chance. I think that kind of then not playing Alabama first, somebody who could overwhelm them with physical strength. I think Washington has enough finesse that could cause some problems, spread them out just like a Big 12 team does, and kind of throw some wrinkles they haven't seen, and maybe pull off an upset. Right? I'm assuming they will. I like Washington in that game. So.
All right, so you and I have Washington. Donnie B's taking Texas, and we're going Alabama across the board. Donnie B, if you can confirm that through comment, we're going to take Alabama across the board. I'd be willing to bet he's probably going Michigan on that one. No,
you think he's going? No, he's going Alabama.
No. He's going to go Alabama. He's an SEC Alabama. Boy. Yeah. I really wish he could have been with us. They didn't feel well, and we're going to have to do this again with him. Terrell, I want to get to wrapping up the show, but before I do want to touch on a little bit of Gators. We can't. This is the Talking Gator, and we need to make sure we touch on the Gators. Hey, transfer portal opens today. I haven't checked it. Have you?
A little bit. We had a couple entries. Chris McClellan, I think is his last name, D tackle number 7, which is a bit surprising. He's a guy who's a rotational piece, one of Billy Napier's early first class signees in the class of 2022. He was a good player. Didn't really jump off the screen, but he's one of the pieces I would consider the depth piece. Maybe since we're getting a new D-line coach, they could pull out some untapped potential in him and kind of make him around him into a better player, maybe even a starter his senior year, maybe. But he entered the portal. We had a couple. Jonathan Odom had previously announced, Kamari Wilson, Caleb Douglas, which was a bit surprising because he was having a good year. I mean, not a good year, but he was the deep play threat that we had prior to his injury. But maybe he saw the writing on the wall with Andy Jean, Aiden Mizell, and all the other weapons we have coming back. There's still some speculation about Trevor Etienne entering. Maybe even Shamar James, our best linebacker, who was hurt prior to the Georgia game. But other than that, no crazy surprises. But it's still early, right? I don't know when the cutoff date is for entry into the portal. Like there's around the nation now, I would say there's a lot of chaos going. You got the starting quarterback for Ohio State.
I'm sure there's a lot to come. Yeah.
He entered the portal. Kyle McCord, he entered the portal. A couple players from Georgia I saw. I'm sure some players from Alabama and all the playoff teams are going to enter as well if they don't feel like they're going to be able to see the field there. So I mean, this is a very important offseason for Billy, right? I mean, get the pieces we need: O-line, D-line, maybe a wide receiver, and some secondary help, and linebacker help, I guess, right? But O-line and D-line has to be a must for him. They can't be. You can't sugarfoot around it. You have to do what you have to do to get these players for him to be successful, right? If not, then next season will be a kind of a repeat of what this season was, and no one wants to see that. And for his job security, he definitely needs to hit the portal as hard as possible with whatever evaluations he needs to do to make sure that the players that he's bringing in are a good fit for the program.
So, Donnie B goes, no, he's with Alabama too. So what do you see as far as potentially going out versus what we look like in recruiting? What do you see that relationship? Are we filling, potential gaps that we may be leaving through the portal? Are we going to be able to fill those either through the portal or through recruiting? What is your thought on that?
O-line, D-line, I think obviously we had a couple defections from the class, a couple kids decommit, right? So especially on the D-line, we had a couple. Mm-hmm. One went to Georgia, one a local guy goes to Buckles, he decommitted. And a couple other guys. We got a couple other guys we're trying to hold on the D-line. But the O-line class is not spectacular. There's a lot of foundational solid pieces that may be about 2 years away from being contributors. So I think you have to hit the portal and get 3 offensive linemen, 3 quality guys, some bookend tackles who can start. who can come in and play who aren't turnstiles, right? You need those on the O line and D line. I think you need a superstar. I mean, I don't want to say superstar, but you need an impact tackle, maybe, and then another serviceable tackle behind them and an impact edge. I think that's what we really need on defense. An impact tackle, somebody quick twitch guy, somebody who can get off the ball, get off the snap, can do those things, and somebody who can get off the quarterback off the edge, right? Because obviously you're going to infuse the talent that you have on the roster, but you just need impactful pieces, right? Those are the two things I'm hopeful that we get. We get 3 quality guys from the portal on the O line and 2 impacts on the D line, and then you can whatever other pieces you want to fill in with around the surrounding teams, surrounding pieces of the team that he's able to do that. But those are the must-have in my opinion. Impact O lineman and two impact D linemen.
So what does that mean, Terrell, from a coaching perspective? I know you wanted to touch on the coaching. How does that what you say, with the filling the what do the coaches what are the coaching must do's, whether it be changes within coaching staff or outlooks as it regards to players coming in and out?
I saw, so it's fascinating for me, right? I saw that Clemson basically hired a new O line coach and a new D line coach today, right? And we haven't we obviously aren't going to fire Rob Sale, the O line coach, because that hasn't happened yet. We may have an OC in the works, but that hasn't been announced yet. So I'm hopeful that Billy has these names already in line, and he's telling the actual the transfers that he's recruiting and the recruiting class members and the high school kids that he's still actively recruiting who these people are, who he plans to hire, because maybe he can't hire them because maybe some are coaching in the NFL, some are coaching in the playoffs, or whatever the case may be, right? They have been relieved their dues at their prior school, but I'm hopeful that whoever he has in line can kind of bring the best out of these kids that he's recruiting, and then the crews are gonna want to play for these individuals, because we don't know who they are as the fan base. But I'm assuming he has a Rolodex of 10 coaches on D line and OC he's interested in, and some O line coaches. Because I'm assuming he's gonna let one of them O line coaches go and maybe bring on a different guy. But who knows at this point in time? Maybe he's gonna play as close to the vest because those guys he's familiar with. I don't have the answer to that at this moment.
Now that we've kind of had a moment to digest 2023 as a whole, to me, it seems like the infection on the lines of scrimmage. Donnie just says here's both lines of scrimmage portal. I get what he's going. Yeah, definitely.
We agree wholeheartedly.
There is more than just execution on the line. I think it's both in coaching and in talent on the front lines.
Yes, that's why I said we need impact especially on D line. We need impact.
O line, yeah.
Impact. I don't know if you can find a good superstar. I mean, not superstar, but solid contributing starters at tackles, because tackles typically don't leave their schools. Because
left tackle, replacing our left tackle would be such a big improvement.
Left tackle? You mean Austin Barber?
Maybe I'm talking right. I know I'm talking Damian George.
You're talking Damian
George, yeah.
Yes. So yes, that in my ideal world, I feel like Austin Barber is a right tackle. I don't feel like he's good enough to play left tackle.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
Right tackle.
And I'm sorry, I thought I've identified Damian George at left tackle. I could be wrong.
No. He played left tackle in the Florida State game because I think Austin Barber was hurt. But I feel like Austin Barber is a solid left tackle like he was in 2022 when he played out of his mind. He played really good. And maybe that was because we had.
I think so too. And I think another year, I think Austin Barber is an All SEC offensive lineman next year.
Yes. Another year in the weight room, another year of experience. So we need, like I said, I think we need a guard, 2 guards maybe. If Mazuka doesn't come back, 2 guards and a left tackle, preferably. And then obviously we need impact players on the D line. So
that's the most important positions on the line. We're talking about guards and tackles. I can fit a little guy. I could fit a physical little guy in at center.
I think Jake Slaughter played well, like a center, right?
He did. He improved. He improved greatly throughout the year. Especially when you look at the first 3 games versus his last 3 games. Let's not say the first 3 games. Let's say game maybe the second quarter of the season versus the last quarter of the season. Definite improvement. over his just individual execution. That's the word I was looking for. But we know the Gators always, kind of start hot. They always give us some, empty promises at the beginning and potential, and we usually think those are something we're going to grow from, but somehow we don't. Somehow we take a step backwards somewhere early in the season. But would you agree?
I agree with you.
So saying all this, it gets me to my main question. I asked you about portal, I asked you about recruits, I've asked you about coaching, and it all comes down to this final question, Terrell. We've talked about even what we think the depth chart should look like in certain positions going into 2024, but I think what I want to know from you now is based on what we're seeing now, players, portals, recruits, coaching. What is the outlook, the expectations for 2024 for our Gators? What are you, as a Gator fan, expecting out of 2024 from the program as a whole?
Obviously, there's a bit of some unknowns that's still out there as far as the portal or how we finish recruiting, right? But let's say everything goes well. We hit the impact positions we need to hit. We get some serviceable O-linemen. We do all those type of things. I think with the schedule that we have, the perfect scenario for me, and I think that we go 8-4, 7-5. We ease, if this is the perfect scenario, we ease DJ Lagway in, let him get some 50-50 reps toward the end of the season, put some packages in for him. A lot more development for the younger guys. Obviously, the younger corners, secondary members, linebackers, especially this. We have a highly ranked linebacker class coming in, and on the offensive side, the receivers, Andy Jean, Aiden Mizell, Trey Wilson, getting them all those touches and experience, and even the freshman receivers that be coming in. I just think it's you kind of mix the present with the future, and then and hopefully you get to that 7-5, 8-4 range. So you have the perfect blend going into 2025, right? That would be my hope. Like, I think kind of what he wanted to do this year, but he went super, super young this year in comparison to next year, to the 2024 season, where you can kind of blend it a lot better, right? You'll have a whole bunch of freshmen and sophomore playing, but you got some upperclassmen that are helping them out, that are impact players that they can learn and watch from and help you get to that 8-4, 7-5 win-loss record.
Donnie says, find some linebackers, O-line, total revamp. Forget recruiting, sign your class and fill with through the portal. Can't wait to develop because Billy won't be the coach if he does not win next year. Boosters won't accept if Billy will be collecting checks like three coaches. What do you got to say?
This is my only question to Donnie. This is why I said what I said in the previous episode. Like, his only if the season gets off to a rut and we go 1-2, 1-3, he has to kick the tires on Mertz to save his job and play Lagway and preach potential. That's his only opportunity if he doesn't get to a hard start. Like, if we lose to Miami,
that's the out.
That's his out. That's his only out. I'm riding with Lagway after week 4. Like, Lagway's the future. We get him prepped for 2025. In 2025, he can preach. We're going to the playoffs with Lagway. Like, I got 3 classes in. They're juniors, they're seniors. We're ready to go. We can fill with the portal. And you know what? To Donnie's point, you know what I wouldn't do this year? You know what I would? I would, all the NIL money we have right now, I wouldn't go spend it excessively and crazy, because we don't have a chance to be like Florida State and go undefeated and make it to the playoff next year. You would agree with that, right, Donnie? I mean, right? Jay?
Yeah, I do.
So don't go crazy and spend that money this year when you really can use that money. If Lagway turns out to be what we think he will be in 2025, you go crazy and spend all that money on all the best players in 2025. Every hole you have, you give him. I mean, I don't know what the going rate for all these positions are, but you pay the premium dollar in 2025, because that could be your championship year. You do that in 2025 and 2026, because next year, I don't care who we bring in. If we can get to 8-4, 7-5, we're not making the playoffs. Let's be honest. Right? We're still.
And there's a good chance you're going to end up 5-7 again the following year.
Yep, because we went all in a year early.
Right, because we went all in a year early. I
So
don't
that's
hate
my
what you just said about,
I
sharing, because we know or at least it's looking like Mertz is staying with us.
he's coming
Lagway's
back. He's
coming in.
announced. He's announced
So
he's coming back.
you had said something about letting Lagway, kind of take a 50-50 season with Mertz. What if you did it, kind of by game? Is allowing, Mertz to start games but work Lagway into these, first and second quarters, and then try to phase him in deeper as either
I think
succeed, or as you hopefully succeed through the game, be able to play him more and more, and then do that through every game. That way, do you remember Steve Spurrier's quarterback? Dueling
yeah,
quarterbacks.
he used to yank him left and right.
I
One
know
possession,
both
one
of those quarterbacks personally, and
Jesse Palmer was one, right? I feel like he was
and Noah
he was the
Brandeis.
epitome that.
And
Yeah,
Noah
yeah.
Brandeis, and the relationship, being able to kind of to pick apart that relationship through them, is that's how it worked. Was that one was able to, it wasn't just of giving different looks, but it was the other being able to pick up the slack of the other, just in a field. I mean, you've been on a ball field, and you just know when coach, I got it right now, and coach, I don't have it right now. But their relationship just works so well that they were able to say, coach, I ain't got it right now. And the other guy was like, hey, I got it right now. And so it worked. There was a three-way dynamic between coach and two quarterbacks. What if we have that dynamic, because we're looking at two different style quarterbacks with Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway, correct?
I, I I I agree with you. I think what people think Max Brown could have been this year, like a change of pace type of quarterback.
Yes.
I think Lagway is that times 10, right? I think he's just
Yes, agreed.
much more of an athlete, much more fluid of a passer. He's a I'm not gonna say he's college ready, but he's had a lot more experience in game time situations at high school level than Max Brown ever could have had, right? Because I don't think he played high school, but maybe his junior and senior year.
Right. I think Lagway is going to be consistently what we saw in those last few minutes from Max Brown in the Missouri game.
Yes, I think he has that potential to be that.
Right.
But my thing for you, Jay, is, and Donnie is what I'm going to allude to is, right. I say early on, you do the change of pace. You give him a series here and there, opening week, 2 weeks. But depending on how the schedule plays out, and the win loss record plays out, I think at some point in time you transition completely to Lagway, which is going to be disheartening to Mertz. That's why I didn't really want him to come back per se. Because if we start off 1-5, what is the purpose of playing Mertz the rest of the year in my mind, right? That's what I'm saying, right? I don't think we'll start off 1-5, but say we're 3-4. At that point in time, you're not making the playoffs. At this point in time, you're playing for 2025.
Mm-hmm.
You have to play for 2025 because you need Lagway to get as much road experience, much experience in home games and big games. Because next year we got a lot of our toughest games are at home outside of Tennessee. But the following year in 2025, you're going back to Missouri. You're going to Death Valley. You're going to, I don't know, maybe Texas or Oklahoma. You're going to these places. You may be going to Alabama.
Probably going to the big house.
You're going to Miami. You're going to Miami. You're going to Miami the first game of the season 2025, right? So that's a road game. You need him to have as much road experience after that first half of the season. Like if we start off 2-4, 3-4, some 4, 4-4, or we get to that point in the last third of the season, you need to give him all the reps and let it be from there, right? Because you're playing for 2025. You're no longer playing for this season. That's why I'm kind of iffy on going all in on the portal in 2024. But if you're Billy, you have to, because your job is on the line. You may not get to 2025, to Donnie's point. So you have to. Selfishly as a fan, I wouldn't want us to go all in on 2024 because I know we're not winning the national championship. I'd rather save that money for 2025 when I know if Lagway is what he projects to be, we have a legitimate shot with all the young depth that we developed and built up over the last 3 years.
I think so too, and that throws an interesting dynamic. Is what if the Gators make it into that top 12 next year? Now what position?
All bets is off.
Right. Now what position are you in with quarterbacks? Now you have this quarterback that you've put through the ringer, right, to get some experience, and you've got this quarterback who's been through the ringer, with you a couple years, and now you head into a maybe you get that 12th seed, and you can just run the gas on everybody. At least what I'm looking at. I'd like to think that next year we could beat number 8 through 12 next year. I hope. of what's
Yeah,
8 through 12 right now, of what I'm looking at 8 through 12 right now. I like to think that the Gators are good enough to beat Oregon, Missouri, Penn State, and Ole Miss.
I mean, we had Missouri on the rope, so you can say that
We had it,
now,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
I think this was a Missouri team that was like one of those one-offs. Like this was an aberration Missouri team. I don't think Missouri's going to have that same level of talent.
That's a good point.
They got a legitimate running back. I think they had some transfer pieces they picked up from the portal. I think what Eli Drinkowitz did this year is what
I
Billy
will
has
say
to do
that's
next
the
year.
one team in these 12 that throws me off the most.
Yeah, they're an outlier.
Yeah,
This is the
that throws
aberration
me
year.
off the most. I feel like even LSU is a better team than Missouri.
Yes, I think LSU will replace Missouri next year, hypothetically.
Yeah.
But even though you don't know who their quarterback is, I just think the level of talent and the way Brian Kelly's probably going to attack the portal and recruit, I think he could replace them. But you also got to think, man, like Georgia and Oklahoma. I mean, you're talking the way this look. This look like this is 6 SEC teams right here with 4. You're talking about maybe 5. I mean, it's a lot, man. So maybe you never know how many the SEC is going to get next year, but. Like maybe we could surprise some people. It could go either way. Like the season can go either way for me. It could be a 9-3 season, or it could be a 5-7 season. Like it could,
Easy.
or it could be 8-4. It could go either way. Right. I'm hopeful for the 7-4, 8-5 8-4 middle ground, and we develop for 2025. And when I feel like we have a legitimate chance at the playoff, we have a legitimate chance at making some noise in the playoffs. I just don't want to get there and put up a TCU type performance. I want to get there and say, oh, we can build upon this in 2026 if we don't win it all in 2025.
I'm happy with the flip of this year, 7-5. I think 7-5 is probably even 6-6. Really, is
no. If we go 6-6, I need Lagway to be playing going 6-6.
I agree.
I don't need Graham Mertz to be the starting quarterback going 6-6. Like that defeats the purpose. Right?
I don't. Honestly, I don't want Graham Mertz going 7-5 either.
But I think that's what Billy has to do to preserve his job, unless he goes all in on Lagway and preaches patience for one more year.
I think if you were pushing Graham Mertz to the floor, you better be 8-4, 9-3. In my opinion, he's.
Do you have our schedule? Pull up our schedule. You tell me what 9 game. You see Florida winning 9 games next year. Hey, whatever numbers you got in your mind for the lottery, I'm gonna run those numbers too.
We were only 14 points from 8-4 this year.
Yeah, but look at the schedule. The schedule's. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of attrition on those teams, like we discussed on the previous episode. A lot of transfer portal. Like Oklahoma doesn't have their starting quarterback anymore. Dylan Gabriel left. He hit the portal today. He left Oklahoma, so that's a game. That's a potential win right there. Missouri, I think they're a big portal team. They're going to take a step back. I think Florida State will take a step back. Miami, I feel like it's going to be a better team than we are next year. I think that could be a potential loss. But
Tennessee, Kentucky's potential wins there.
No, Kentucky's better than us. Mark Stoops didn't go to Texas A&M like I hope, because right now he has our number for some reason. His program has our number. Tennessee, they're going to be starting a young quarterback.
Right now they do. They do. We got
Tennessee's going to be starting that guy. They paid all that young guy. They paid all that money to. So Nico, I think I can't pronounce his last name, and I'm not going to butcher it. But he's going to be starting. He's basically a true freshman starting, not a true freshman, but a sophomore with no experience. So I mean, I feel like we have a shot, nigga, like what you're describing. But everything has to go that way. Billy has to attack the portal and get all impact players on both sides of the line of scrimmage. If he does that with the skill position players that we have, 8-4 is not out the realm of possibility. 9-3 could be a far fetch, but it could be possible depending on how he develops. Who's his OC? Who's the D line coach? The O line coach? Because if Billy's still calling the plays next year, you better be ready for 7-5, 6-6.
I agree. I agree, or if at least he doesn't learn something about play calling, because
if he doesn't bring in a young coach to infuse their scheme and his scheme together and create this masterful, beautiful scheme. If he sticks in his stubborn, I mean, I don't want to call him stubborn because I don't know that.
What you said last week has been such an infection in my mind of, just starting hot with 10 or 15 plays and then just doling out and simmering.
That's the story of the year.
Such an enlightening, it was an epiphany, if you will, and that's exactly how it's been. That's exactly how it's been, not only with Napier, but it almost with a few of these other coaches that we've cycled through is we're hot. We show that we're good enough to do something good, and we turn the boiling down. We turn the heat down before we're all the way cooked and let it simmer.
I was very much a Mullen guy, Like he just because his offensive creativity, right? He would always find that one hole in the defense and exploit it if they couldn't fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously other things outside of that. Hopefully he just finds a young coordinator who has that ability to adapt week to week and who isn't stuck in I need to run these 10 plays this game because I feel like who can adapt in the game, who can look at the game in the moment and say these things I need to change these things and then go from there.
Yeah,
So
I don't care how good your offense is. Putting 50 points on their shoulders to have to score to win the game is hard on any.
yes,
I don't care what
yes.
offense, how good of an offense you have. When your defense sucks enough that you've got to score 50 points to win a game.
Yes, I'm with you. I mean, hopefully the onus is on Billy. Recruiting in the transfer portal and getting them impact players and maintaining this class together and just staying on top of it. He has no excuse. We aren't making a bowl game, so he's not bowl prepping. So all he has to do is recruit for the next month, 2 months until National Signing Day, the end of the month, and then
buy a plane ticket, jump on a bus.
And do whatever he has to do. None of the coaches should be home for the next month and a half. Everybody should be on the road, unless they're taking a visit to the swamp.
Hey, I'm available. I can make a few trips here and there if you need me to go. Look, Coach, I want to wrap up the show. Terrell, I appreciate you joining. We need to continue this conversation, and Donnie will hopefully be back next week. Let's see if you're available. Let's see if we can't work you next week because I feel like this was held short, and I feel like there was a lot missing with Donnie not being here. And
sounds good.
Little update: Gators lose to Wake Forest in the ACC SEC bout. Basketball. What do we have coming up? What is today even? What is today, Terrell?
Today is the 4th.
The 4th.
Monday the 4th.
Do we have? Oh, we got basketball tomorrow. We got Merrimack. Got Merrimack coming to the Swamp. It looks like 7 p.m. I would like to think that's a win for the Gators. So we'll see about that. We'll talk about that Monday briefly. But Terrell, I would like to continue this conversation. I'd like to get Donnie in here on this, trying to listen and cycle and talk and read at the same time was a little monotonous. But I appreciate your time today, man. Hey, your time is very valuable here. We appreciate your commentary. You're extremely colorful with your commentary, and we like what you have to say. We like your outlook. You're very smart. A true Gator fan, not even from here, and in love with the Gators, and I absolutely love that you're part of Gator Nation. So let's continue this conversation next week. That's going to be Monday, folks, live. We'll be here at 8 p.m. Donnie B will be joining us. Hopefully he'll feel better. We wish you well, Donnie B.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's about it from us, folks. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe. We'll be here until at least, I think probably the 30th of December. We'll continue with the Saturday shows. Right now it's just going to be Mondays. Mondays at 8 p.m. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. We love you. Merry Christmas. Go Gators.